that we now welcome Sheikh Shomali's introduction with one more salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-aliyyil azim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina Abil Qasim al-Mustafa Muhammad. وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأرض أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف فجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره. I am grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving me tawfiq to visit you here, and alhamdulillah, after many years that I have not been to this community, now I see the new center is alhamdulillah functioning and the community is vibrant, so I pray for your success inshallah, and hope that wherever we are we will be able to fulfill our responsibilities towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, towards our faith and towards ourselves and our family inshallah. It is said that once a person went to study for a few years in the Hose, and then when he went back, people asked him to give lecture, and he had not studied properly. So he was looking for excuse not to speak. So the first night he said, "Do you know what I want to say?" They said no. So he said, "If after many years of living and being in the community you don't know what I want to say, what's the point?" So he didn't speak. Then the second night he said, "Do you know what I want to say?" So because they had heard what he said last night, said yes. So he said, "If you know, there is no point." So the second night also he didn't speak. The third night he repeated the same question, and people wanted to be clever. So if we say yes, he doesn't speak. We say no, he doesn't speak. So some of them said yes, some said no. Then he said those who know should say to those who don't know. So he didn't speak. So alhamdulillah, we heard very good presentation by Dr. Imtiaz, and what I am going to say is a summary of Islamic view about end of life. But before that, I should have an introduction. First, how I was involved in this issue, and secondly, what type of attitudes we can have in Islam towards this issue. Because sometimes we think that Islamic study of these issues is only one perspective, one attitude, which is not the case. So, about my involvement, of course, in the seminary, we study fiqh and usul as major, and for me, philosophy also was a major. But at the same time, I decided to do Western ethics. So for my master in Tehran University, I chose After Virtue by Alistair McIntyre for my dissertation. And then when I went to Manchester for PhD, I did my PhD on ethical relativism, which is ethical theory. But towards the end of my PhD, and that is end of 90s, I came to this conclusion that the next step for me must be bioethics, which is not ethical theory, it's applied ethics, it's a field of applied ethics. So towards the end of my PhD, I started collecting resources for issues related to life and death. And when I finished my PhD in 2000, then I suggested to my supervisor to work on issues related to life and death. So I did my postdoc for 1 year on life and death. And then I went back to Qom and I started encouraging our Hause students to do dissertations or theses for MA or PhD for such issues. And alhamdulillah, we had many programs. Then I shifted to environmental ethics, because that is also very important. More and more it's becoming important. We had dissertations on brain death, on environmental ethics, on gene ethics, which is now becoming by itself a discipline, gene ethics. So this has been a very important issue for me after I did my PhD. And I think what some people have said is not an exaggeration to say that this century would be a century in which bioethics would be one of the key concerns of humanity. Because of advancement in technology, we are able to do many things, whether it would be for therapy or for enhancement, that would bring lots of questions. So now, let's see what is Islamic treatment of these issues. In Islam, we can deal with these issues from a fiqh perspective, a legal perspective. We can deal with these issues from ethical perspective. And sometimes we have discussion, some people say these are the same, but I think these very much supplement each other, but they are not the same. Because in fiqh, we try to fix the boundaries, the red lines. But ethics goes further. So, for example, just as an example, many times we discuss this. For example, we have had many theses and dissertations on cloning. When it comes to fiqh, most of Shia jurists, they say cloning as such is not haram. Unlike Sunni scholars, most of Shia jurists say cloning is not haram as such. It's by itself. Why? Because there is no reason to say this is haram. كل شيء لك حلال حتى تعرف أنه حرام. As long as we have no reason to say something is haram, we cannot say it's haram. To say something which is haram is halal is a problem, and also to say something which is halal it's haram is a problem. Some people think, no, if we say something which is haram is halal is problem, but we can also for ihtiyat say halal things are haram. Both have problem. You can say to people do ihtiyat, but faqih cannot force people to do ihtiyat unless he has some evidence for doubt. That's when we have ihtiyat wajib. Ihtiyat wajib is not just because this faqih himself wants to be precautious. It's because there is some evidence, but that evidence is not strong enough for him to issue fatwa. So, We cannot make halal haram or haram halal. Therefore, for example, when it comes to cloning, normally Shia jurists say it's not haram as such. And they challenge the arguments that other Muslim jurists bring. But does it mean that Islam gives green light to cloning? Just because it is not haram, or because we don't have reason to say it is haram, and we apply usul amaliyah, because bara'a is a practical principle. It doesn't give us hukm waqi'i as we say in usul. It's just something to define your practical duty right now. For example, istishab. If something used to be tahir, and now I doubt it has been touched by najis or not, I assume it is still tahir unless it is proved otherwise. Yeah? لا تنقض اليقين بالشك, as Imam Sadiq said to Zurara. Or if you had wuzu before lecture, and now you don't know whether you slept or not, so you assume your wuzu is continuing unless it is proved that you slept. But this is called asla amali. This is a practical principle. It doesn't prove that you have actually wuzu or this is actually tahir. It's just a practical measure. So in fiqh, sometimes we assume something is halal because practically we have to say we don't have any evidence to say this is haram. You understand? But it doesn't mean that Islamically we give green light. We can have lots of ethical observations which may not be enough to make it haram. For example, when it comes to future of humanity, we can have lots of serious concerns about cloning. Or GM foods. Maybe we can say, as long as it doesn't, harm your health, it is halal. But from ethical perspective, we can say it is wrong. So these are two different ways. So anything which is from fiqhi point of view haram, ethically is also wrong. But there can be things which are from fiqhi point of view halal, but still ethically we have reservations. So you can deal with these issues from fiqhi perspective. You can deal with this issue from ethical perspective. Another perspective is philosophical perspective. Because many of these issues have deep philosophical foundations. For example, about death. What is death? You can have medical definition for death. You can have common sense definition of death. You can have legal definition of death. But you can also have a philosophical definition of death. Which is, if you want to simplify, you say departure of the soul from body. It is to simplify it. Or you can say soul stopping managing body. Okay? So this is a philosophical definition. And then sometimes this philosophical understanding can help. Sometimes this philosophical understanding may not help practically, because how can you decide whether the soul has departed or not? I mentioned this example sometimes. When the late Sayyid Ahmad Khomeini, son of Imam Khomeini, he was for some days or maybe some weeks, he was unconscious. And people were praying for him. The family of Imam Khomeini used to also pray for him and ask people to pray. Then they sent a person to Mashhad to meet one of ulama who was very spiritual and ask him what is his understanding, what is his advice or any suggestion. So this person went to Mashhad. I know the name of that also, alim, but I don't mention the name. So he went to Mashhad And the first thing he wanted to do was to look for the address to find that person and ask him this question. And said Ahmad Khomeini is in hospital. Millions of people are following the news on TV, I know, praying. I remember in the mosques, they were praying. So when he was in hotel, he was called from reception that someone wants to see you. So that alim had sent someone to take him the message and said his journey in Barzakh, Sayr Barzakhi, has already started. Means he's already in the other world. Although his body is in the hospital and with the help of machine, still there are some vital activities. So this is something that no doctor or jurist can understand, but this is something that a mystic can understand. Something that a philosopher defined, but even philosopher himself cannot say that this has happened or has not happened. Because as we know, philosophy doesn't deal with particular things. We say in philosophy that al-juz'iyyu la yakunu kasiban wala muktasaba, means there is no way to establish anything particular by philosophy. Philosophy only deals with universal things. You cannot use philosophy to determine today is hot or cold. Yeah? So, you cannot use philosophy to say the soul has departed or not. It needs another way. And here an Arif can do something. Anyway, so when it comes to Islam, Islam has a whole set of different disciplines to help us understand a very important issue like death. And what is important is we need to use all these things to have a holistic understanding. We should know fiqh, because that is the bottom line for us. We can never compromise about fiqh. But we cannot be satisfied only with fiqh, because we need also to observe ethical consideration. Plus, if we are equipped with philosophical approach, then we can discuss this with other people. We can discuss with people of other schools of Islam or people of other religions or people of no faith. Philosophy is such a good vehicle for communication because everyone has aql. So everyone can be engaged if you use the language of philosophy or moral philosophy like ethics. Okay, so these are two introductory points. Now I want to give few just points so that we understand what is Islamic perspective on end of life. First of all, we should know that in Islam, like other Abrahamic religions, but in Islam it's very, very clear, life is very, very sacred quality. Even for God, we use the concept of life. In the Quran, we have Al-Hayy, the living, as one of the qualities of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also in du'as, for example, du'a Jawshan Kabir, in du'a Ahd, we have different actually descriptions all about life of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The one who has life and has not inherited life. The one whose life is not resembled by any other life. So we have many descriptions like this. In the Quran, Al-Hayy sometimes comes right after Tawheed. Allahu la ilaha illahu al-hayyul qayyum in Ayatul Kursi. So it is such a fundamental thing that after Tawheed we mention Hayy. Because if God does not have life, then it cannot be God. What is the benefit of a God who doesn't have life? Not only God should have life, God should not also sleep. لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم, because sleeping is a small, experience of death. الله يتوفى الأنفس حين موتها والتي لم تمت في منامها. During the death, Allah partially takes our soul, not completely, partially during the sleeping time. During the death is completely, sleep is partial. So, Tawheed is followed by Hayy. Sometimes even comes before Tawheed. Huwal Hayy la ilaha illahu. So concept of life for us is very, very important. And if you are interested, some years back, I edited this volume, and there are 2 papers by me, but also papers by other scholars. Life, this is the 5th volume of Islamic reference series. Life of God, life of human beings, life of animals, plants, spiritual life, al-hayatu tayyibah. It's a whole system about life. And any form of life is sacred. Not only human life, not only divine life, even life of animal is sacred. Islamically, we cannot kill animals just because, we think they are not important. Or, for example, for leisure, we hunt animals for leisure. Islamically, we don't have leisure hunting. Either you need them for food, or if they are going to kill you, you can protect yourself. Either for defense or for food. Means to protect human life, you may kill animals. But you cannot just kill animals because you like or you have no regard for them. Even animal life should not be wasted. Sometimes I ask this question. If you have a najas animal, I don't mention example because some people are sensitive. A najas animal, and we have a sheep, and we have little water. To whom you give? To which one you give? Little water to save one animal. You have a sheep, you have a najas animal. To which one you give? Maybe you think we give to sheep, because sheep is halal, you can, eat. But the answer is, you give it to the najas animal. Because sheep you can slaughter and utilize it. But that najas animal will die and the life is wasted. So, you see, even an animal which is najas, it doesn't mean that it has no value. We have respect for that animal. If that animal needs food, if that animal needs medicine, we have to provide. Just the thing is that Islam says this animal should not be brought inside home, because this animal has the potential of replacing family members. Some people like to have such animals. Why? Because they are always obedient and grateful. Children, sometimes when they are very young, they are very good. When they grow, they are not obedient. So it's easier to have sometimes animals. This is a worry. Therefore, Islam says, keep them away, because we want to have human relations. We don't want to replace human beings with animals. But it doesn't mean that we don't have regard for them. Even, we have stories about a person, for example, a great alim was seen after this that he had received great grace because there was a thirsty najas animal and gave Or for example, Sheikh Rajab Ali Khayyat, I don't know if you have heard about him. They say his journey started bearing fruits after many years, when one day he was very hungry for some days because had no money. Then he received some money. He purchased some kebab with noon sangak and was taking home. Then saw a najis animal with some children and have nothing. For some days he didn't have anything to feed. Now as kebab, but gave this kebab to this animal. Then from that day, some opening happened to him. So, any type of life for us has value. In my paper on environmental ethics, which is online also, I have quoted fatwas of Shia jurists that animals have right for shelter. Today we talk about right of people for housing, but our ulama said animals have right for shelter. Animals have right for food. Animals have right for medicine. These are mentioned in my paper. Even if, for example, in a village, your neighbor has a cow and doesn't have any means to feed his cow, it's wajib on you to feed the cow of your neighbor, as if he has no food to feed his children. So, any kind of life in Islam is sacred. Plants, their life is sacred. Even insects. You cannot just kill insects without, feeling bad. They say, I don't know if you have heard this story, but when Imam Khomeini was in Najaf, there were, mosquitoes and flies coming. He was not killing them or using, for example, something to kill them. He just used to take his abba and send them out. There was an alim in Mashhad, I met him myself, very respected alim, Mirza Jawad Agha, Tehrani in Mashhad. Once he was sitting in his own yard at home. But the old man and his back was bending towards the end of his life. He was sitting in the yard, went to go to his room, but then they saw he came back and went to the same place that he was sitting. Family asked him, why you went back? He said, I saw some ants on my dress and I didn't want to misplace them. I'm going back to the same place and put those ants on the same place. This is what an Arif, a person who is deeply rooted in Islam, does even with ants. Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam says, Wallahi, law u'titu al-aqalim as-sab'ah wa ma tahta aflaka. Ala an a'si Allah fi namlatin aslubaha jalba sha'iratin ma fa'al. By Allah, if you give me 7 continents and whatever is between them and the sky, so that I take the peel of one barley seed from an ant, I don't do this. This is how much Islam has value for life, even life of an insect. So you shouldn't be surprised when Quran says that we have written down for Bani Israel, for all nations afterwards, and in Islam, من قتل نفسا بغير نفس أو فساد في الأرض فكأنما قتل الناس جميعا. If someone kills one innocent person, he is like a person who has killed all human beings. وَمَنْ أَحْيَاهَا فَكَأَنَّمَا أَحْيَا النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. And if you save one life, it's as if you have saved all humanity. Sometimes people say, how it comes? So if someone kills one person, it's like killing all people, then it means that then if he kills a second person, it cannot be worse. So someone asked Imam alayhi salam this question, and Imam gave a very good answer. Imam said, when someone kills an innocent person, he would be put in a low, very low place in hell. Quran also says that if someone kills an innocent person, فَجَزَاؤُهُ جَهَنَّمْ خَالِدًا. If he kills a second person, the place is already lowest place, but should the intensity becomes more. So I explain it in this way. We have quality of pain and we have quantity of pain. These are two separate things. Sometimes you think that it's just a matter of shiddah. No, quality and quantity. For example, I am sorry, there are so many things to say that my time is also very good, but I think it's good to mention this. A mother who has lost her child, this pain is different from pain of a person who is hungry. Most of them have pain, but the quality is different. It's not a matter of intensity or quantity. If you are hungry for 1 day or 2 days or 10 days or 40 days, even if you die, it's not the same as pain of a mother who loses her child. So we have type of pain and we have quantity of pain. If someone kills an innocent person, has the worst quality of pain, plus if he kills more people, it intensifies. And you then see how much zulm is being extended to Islam when people in the name of Islam kill. These Daesh and these ISIS people, a religion which has so much value even for animals and plants and insects, let alone human beings, they use it to justify their cruel activities. Great zulm. Great zulm. Anyway, let me just mention a few minutes, one point, and then we go to questions, because then maybe we can discuss more over questions. When it comes to human life, we can say this is the most important life in this world. We are not talking about Allah's life. We are not talking about life of angels. We are talking this world, in dunya, in this physical world. This is the most important life. This life is for soul. Okay? Our body is not the main factor in giving us our identity. Our identity comes from our soul, from our spirit. Yeah? And our life is for our soul. As long as body is with soul, at the service of the soul, body is also receiving life. Quran says to the Prophet, إِنَّكَ مَيِّتٌ وَإِنَّهُمْ مَيِّتُونَ. You are dead, or you are mortal, but if you want to say literally, mayyit means dead. وَإِنَّهُمْ مَيِّتُونَ. Some people say it means that you are dying. You are going to die. They are going to die. But the Quran doesn't say إِنَّكَ تَمُوتُ. It says إِنَّكَ مَيِّتٌ. What does it mean? It means that you don't possess life. Life is deposited to you. Your body is dead. life is deposited. It's a gift from God for you. It's an amana for you. If I give you my, for example, watch, I say, please look after my watch. You shouldn't think you own watch. It's not yours. Whatever Allah gives us is not ours. Especially when it comes to our physical body, is very far from life. Our soul's life comes from God, but our body comes through the soul. So it's one level farther away from the real source of life. So, human soul has maximum sanctity in this world. But what is amazing, and this is what I like everyone to pay attention. What is amazing is that even before the soul is created, the value, the sanctity of soul is there for human body, for embryo, even before the soul is created. Because the soul is not created from the first day of pregnancy. The development takes different shapes and forms, and according to many of jurists, it's almost 120 days after pregnancy that we can say we have human soul. Okay? But from the first day of pregnancy, abortion is prohibited. Although we don't have yet a human being. We don't have human soul. Why? Because this is potentially a human being. But this is active potentiality, because there are two types of potentiality. This is active potentiality in the sense that if you don't interfere, it becomes a human being. It's different from, for example, from meat or bread that has the potentiality of being eaten and then become a human being. It's active potentiality. The value, the sanctity of human soul is extended to human body first, and then is extended further to the body that is going to become human body. So even before birth, even before creation of the soul after 120 days, still this embryo is to be respected. And there is dear, there is blood money if even father or mother abort the embryo, even before installment. And it is also extended to the period after death. Unfortunately, in some traditions, when people die, they have no respect for the body. They just try to somehow treat the body so that it doesn't, affect other people, doesn't cause pollution or whatever. But Islamically, this body, which used to be with the soul, still has the same respect. We have many hadiths which says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ حَرَّمَ مِنْهُ مَيِّتًا مَا حَرَّمَ مِنْهُ حَيًّا. This is very important to understand how much Islam has value for human beings. Whatever is prohibited to be done to a body of a living person is prohibited to be done to a dead body. For example, can I cut someone's hand? No. Can I cause injury to someone when he's alive? No. Can I make the body bruise? No. The same is to the dead body. And if someone does something to a dead body that could have killed him when he was alive or she was alive, has to pay diya. I read one hadith for you and finish. This hadith is in Al-Kafi by Sheikh Kulayni. This is Tahzib and Istibsar, both by Sheikh Tusi. So it's a very important hadith. And Sahib Jawahir, Rahmatullah alayhi, also in his Jawahir, mentions this hadith. And many of our Maraji also have given fatwa based on this and similar hadith. Hussein ibn Khalid says, Sa'altu Abul Hasan alayhi salam. I asked Imam Kazim alayhi salam. فقلت إنا روينا عن أبي عبد الله عليه السلام حديثا أحب أن أسمعه منك. He says, we have received a hadith from Imam Sadiq that now I want to listen to you and hear it from you. He wanted to check. فقال وما هو. Imam alayhi salam said, what is that hadith that you want to hear from me? He says, بلغني, I have heard, it has come to me, reached me, أنه قال في رجل قطع رأس رجل ميت, that Imam Sadiq about a person who cut off the head of a dead body. Imam Sadiq said this. قال رسول الله. Imam Sadiq quoted this hadith from Prophet. إن الله حرم من المسلم ميتا ما حرم منه حيا. Allah has prohibited to do with a Muslim body whatever is haram to do when he was alive. فَمَنْ فَعَلَ بِمَيِّتٍ مَا يَكُونُ فِي ذَلِكَ اجْتِيَاهُ نَفْسِ الْحَيِّ فَعَلَيْهِ الدِّيَةُ. Imam Sadiq quoted from Rasulullah, and this person wants to check with Imam Kazim alayhi salam, that Rasulullah said, if someone does something that could have killed a living person, must pay diya, even if it is done to a dead person. فَقَالَ. Imam Kazim said, صَدَقَ Abu Abdullah alayhi salam. Yes, this is right hadith, and Rasulullah said this. هَكَذَا قَالَ Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa. Then this person is a little bit surprised because he didn't understand one point. He thought it is the same amount of diya. And he is surprised how killing a living person and cutting, for example, head of a dead body would have the same amount of diya. So he says, قلت من قطع رأس رجل ميت أو شق بطنه أو فعل به ما يكون في ذلك الفعل اجتياه نفس الحي فعليه الدية دية النفس كاملة. If someone does these things, he has to pay complete diya. Imam alayhi salam said, no. Then Imam explained, and this is very, very important, very beautiful. Imam said there is diya, but this diya is equal to the diya of embryo before the soul is created, which is ma'a dinar, 100 dinar. So, body before creation of the soul and body after departure of the soul have diya, which is the same. It's not the same as someone who is living a soul which is alive. Then Imam alayhi salam, after he said this man says, فَسَكَتُّ وَسَرَّنِي مَا أَجَابَنِي. I was silent and very happy because this opened for him a way of understanding. Actually, I remember the first time I read this hadith, I cried. Because in my philosophical reflections, I had come to something similar, but I needed some proof. This is very beautiful. So he says, I was silent and happy. But Imam said, لِمَنْ لَا تَسْتَوْفِي مَسْأَلَتَكَ. Why you don't complete your question? There is still something else that you must know. He says, I said, ما عندي فيها أكثر مما أجبتني فيه. He said, I didn't have any other question. Imam said, no, there is something else. To whom we give this diya? If you refer to Risalas of Ayatollah Sistani, other Maraja, you find this point. When embryo is killed before installment or after installment, we give diya to the father and mother if they are not involved. If mother is involved, to the father. Okay? If father killed the child, to the mother. So, the diya is given to those who inherit. But when a dead person's body is damaged, the diya is not given to those who inherit. It is spent on himself. They do good things like Hajj and charity for this person. And Imam gives the reason. Because before that person was given soul, you want to do charity on behalf of what? An embryo without soul. Even a little child doesn't need charity. Yeah? This person was baligh, was mukallaf, has worked hard, has gained, something, and it is distributed. Now you want to even distribute his diya to the inheritors? No. This is something that they didn't expect. This is not what they had expectation. This is not inheritance. It has to be spent on himself. It is very beautiful point. So, my conclusion, so that we can go to the questions. Islam gives maximum respect to human life, to all life, but especially human life. And anything that we do, if I want to summarize everything, if you want to understand a principle, to understand many issues about end of life, anything that you do as doctors, as nurses, as family, should exhibit respect and honoring this person, whether he is in brain death condition, whether he's actually died, whether he has terminal illness, maximum respect. And the minimum requirement is you should not do anything that, according to the common sense of that age, is considered carelessness. For example, maybe 100 years ago, I didn't need, for example, to take my father who was ill to another continent. It was not possible. But now, if I can afford, and there is a treatment for him in another country, and I don't take him, this is carelessness. 100 years ago, I was not required to take him to another continent. So, or machines that are available today, medicine which is available, doctors. For example, I am in a village. I don't take my father to the town where there is a good doctor. This is carelessness. So, anything that is a sign of carelessness, by common sense, not by me only or one person, the Orf say this person has done enough, or they say he has not done enough. If we do something which is considered as carelessness, that is not accepted. But if you have not been considered as someone who is careless and you want to do a heroic job, this is also not needed. You want to put yourself and your uncles and aunts and all people suffer, and just, for example, to keep him alive for another month, 2 months, I don't think any common sense, in any country would say this is needed to show your carefulness or your respect. Of course, in between, there will be some gray area that you wonder, have I done enough or not? You should always do as much that you are sure that you have done enough. Yeah? So you don't take risk from this side. If you want to take risk, it's only from the other side. So we must do our best to show, to demonstrate that we are respectful to this life, we are careful about this life, but it's not that we must do miraculous job, we have to do heroic job, we have to make all, our family and all our community and all our tribe, for example, suffer, especially if there is no treatment. It's just a matter of prolonging. Prolonging is important. Not to let someone die earlier is important, but to what extent? So these are some points that in this short time I wanted to share with you, and I hope inshallah through question and answer, but mostly through your own reading and study, you can follow up inshallah these issues. Thank you very much. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillah rabbil alamin.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Now, I know that some of you have been posting questions. Alhamdulillah, we've got quite a few questions.